values. You have your AC bill. Ma'am?
The outdoor temperature is is the X value and the AC bill is the Y value.
Okay, I totally agree with that. So this is our X and this is our Y. What's happening with the outdoor temperature and the AC bill? Like, what's the correlation?
Cooler just the less the AC bill goes.
Yeah, the lower the AC bill is. How am I going to find the slope? Okay, so I don't have a table to count. I don't have a graph to count rise over run. So how am I going to find the slope? What is slope? That's the equation slope-intercept form. Change in y over the change in x. So how do I find my change in y? What's happening here? Okay, going down by 5 and down by 5. What's happening on the x side? Down by 15. Down by 15. So my change in y, -5, over my change in x, -15, is what? What is -5 over -15? 1 over 3. And it's a positive 1 over 3. So that's my slope. My slope is 1/3. So what does that mean? Now remember, this is the y coordinate, which represents money. So I'm going to write $1, and the x coordinate represents degrees, right? Degrees Fahrenheit. So what's happening? What costs $1? What's the change? What are we talking about? Okay. So the air conditioning bill increases because it's positive slope, and it's positive because both numbers were going down. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So the AC bill increases by $1. It increases by $1 for what? What's happening on the x-axis?
Every time the temp goes down, by degree, well, not every.
What's the number in the bottom of the fraction? What's the number that represents the x, the temperature? So the AC bill increases by $1 for every 3-degree Fahrenheit temp increase. Now, we could say that it also decreases by $1 for every temperature decrease. Equation of the trend line. Well, we're not going to call it a trend line. We're just going to call it y equals m times x plus b. How am I going to write an equation for slope-intercept form? What do I need? So open up your journal. Should be 3.4. Should be your 3.4 journal. 3.4. How do I write an equation when I don't know the y-intercept? So we have some ordered pairs. So flip it open, and I think we wrote down some steps, like first this, second that.
Oh, first find slope.
First, we have to find the slope. So I know that there is not a whole lot of room on this, but there is nothing on your back side. Does that make sense? So I'm going to slide over, and you're going to put it on the back side. So this is number 1. So first, we need to find slope. So I'm going to look at my table and you guys tell me what two ordered pairs do you want to use? Ken, pick one of them. It's the whole ordered pair. So 105.75, you want to use that one? Okay. What's the other one you want to use, Victoria? 75 and 65. Okay. So I have 105.75 and 75.65. How do I find slope when I know 2 points? How do I find the slope when I know 2 points? What's the little slope formula?
Y2 minus Y1 over X to minus.
Yeah, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So what do we do with these little coordinates of our ordered pairs? Remember, we label them. This is our first point, or first ordered pair. This is our second ordered pair. So I have the x and the y coordinates. So if we know that slope is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, what's that going to look like? What numbers am I plugging in for y sub 2? So 65 minus, okay, keep going, you're doing great.
75 minus 105.
Okay. So 65 minus 75 is? Mm-hmm. And negative 10 over negative 30, well, the zeros cross out, is a negative 1 over a negative 3, which equals 1/3. And we already calculated our slope. So now what do we do? After we find our slope, what do we do next? Find B. Okay, how are we going to do that?
The number of pairs to sum out the X and Y.
So what ordered pair do you want to use, Tim? Okay, so we're going to use the ordered pair 75 and 65, and our slope, which is 1/3, and we're going to substitute them into the y equals mx plus b equation. So what value am I replacing the y with? 65 equals my slope, which is what? 1/3, times my x coordinate, which is plus b. So calculator, 1/3 times 75, parenthesis 1 divided by 3 times 75, what do you get? You get 25. So 65 equals 25 plus b. Now what? Yeah, we're going to subtract 25 from both sides, and we find out that 40 is our y-intercept. So have we found both parameters? Remember that we talked about that word parameter? Have we found both parameters, both things that we need to write an equation in slope-intercept form? We sure have. So what is our equation going to be?
It's going to be y equals 1/3 X plus 40.
Perfect. Y equals 1/3 x plus 40. What is the meaning of the y-intercept? What is the meaning of the y-intercept? And remember that the y-coordinate, is your AC cost. The y-coordinate is your AC cost. So what is the meaning of the y-intercept? How much it equals altogether? Let's see. Yeah. Remember that the y-coordinate, the y-intercept happens when x is 0. So it's really the ordered pair 0, 40. And x represents the temperature. So the meaning of the y-intercept is the cost of the AC when the temperature is 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, do you run your air conditioning when it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit? No. So it's probably not super realistic, but that's how it's calculated in the real world. It's kind of like that set fee, that initial fee. Okay?
Maybe it's like an AC and heat unit?
Yeah, it probably is an AC and heat unit. I would completely agree with that. Question D over here says, what is the y-intercept? Well, we calculated that. We knew that B was 40. We found that on the back, and I'm also going to write it as an ordered pair, 0, 40. So question F says, what is the cost of the AC bill when the temperature is 97? What does that mean? What do we have to do? What variable represents the temperature? X. So this is the same thing as saying let X equal 97. So my equation, y equals 1/3 times X, which is 97, plus 40, will give us the cost. So what is that? What is 1/3 times 97 plus 40?
$72.33.
So $72.33, because we're talking about money, so we're just going to use 2 decimal places. $72.33. Okay. Let's look at our next one. So I have the amount of hours of soccer practice and the number of goals scored. So which one's the X and which one's the Y? What do you think, Avery? Okay. Okay. So how are we going to find the slope? Okay, so what's happening each time? Up by 13 on the Y. And on the x-axis, it goes up by 1 each time. So what is my slope, Tim? Change in Y. So my slope is 13/1, which means 13. So what does that mean? What does it mean, the slope, in terms of the table of values?
For every 1 hour he plays, he scores 13 goals.
Okay, so for every 13, I'm going to put the X first, or the Y first. For every 13 goals scored, he has, and we're assuming it's a he, it might be a she, I'm going to say she. She has 1 hour of practice. One hour of practice. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this word trend line again, and we're just going to call it equation in slope-intercept form. What is another way to find the y-intercept using the table? Do you guys remember? If we were to use the table, and we know that the y-axis increases by 13 each time and the x-axis increases by 1, remember we could work backwards?
You just minus 13 from one side, then 1 from the other side.
Yeah. So when I subtract 1 from the x's, I get a 0, and that's what I want, because I know that when x is 0, that's my y-intercept. What is 13 minus 13? So the y-intercept is the ordered pair 0, 0. Or we could say b equals 0. And what is the meaning of it? What does it mean?
If he doesn't play any hours of soccer, he doesn't score any goals.
Yeah, 0 hours of practice. Means 0 goals scored, sorry. Okay, so what's that equation going to be? If we have a slope of 13 and a y-intercept of 0, what is our equation going to look like? Y equals 13x. How many hours do you need to practice to score 117 goals? How are we going to do that? What is the 117 goals representing? The x coordinate or the y coordinate?
15x is the y.
117 goals.
117 is the x.
Let's go up to our table. What is the y coordinate represented by?
Goals.
The number of goals. So this is our y. This is the same thing as saying let y equal 117. Okay, so we're going to use our equation and we're going to replace the y. So instead of y, I'm going to write 117 equals 13 times x. So now how are we going to solve that? Say again. Yeah, good job, Daniel. We're going to divide both sides by 13. Divide both sides by 13, and we find out that x equals 9 hours of practice. Is that question realistic? How many of you guys play soccer? I used to play soccer. So, yeah. So, like I practiced all the time and I never, even in my whole high school career, did I score 117 goals. You know what I mean? All right. Last one. Number of laps swam compared to number of laps run. We have to find the slope. What do you want to do first, Tyler? What do you want to do first? What do we do in the last two examples, Tyler? We look to see the what? Okay, so I look to see what I'm adding or subtracting from one point to the next. So what am I adding or subtracting to get from the 4 to the 7? Okay. What about to get from the 7 to the 10? Okay. Let's look at the x coordinate. What am I adding to the x side to go from 2 to 5? And to go from 5 to 8? So my slope is my change in y over my change in x, which is really 3 over 3. Does 3 over 3 reduce? To what? So my slope is really 1. M equals 1. Well, what does that mean? Every 1 lap run, they also swim 1 lap. How are we going to write an equation in slope-intercept form? Well, my slope is 1. My slope is actually 1. So I could go subtract 1 from both sides. And let's see, 2 minus 1 is 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. But I have to do the same thing again. Subtract 1. That would give me the 0 that I'm looking for. Subtract 1. And that would give me the number 2. So my y-intercept is the ordered pair 0, 2. So what does that mean? Yep, it means the y-intercept is 2. What does it mean?
Every time he swims or runs 2 laps, he swims 0 laps.
No, remember this is the beginning. Remember that the y-intercept is the beginning. It's the beginning. So it means that they ran 2 laps before they did any swimming, right? Because the laps and the swimming, when you think about slope, is 1 to 1, like 1 lap of running, 1 lap of swimming. But before he did that, before he got on that cycle, he ran 2 laps before they did any of the swimming. Okay. How many laps did they run if they swam 14 laps? Well, we have to come up with our equation, and we haven't written that yet. So what do we want our equation to be?
Y equals 1x plus 2.
Yeah, y equals 1x plus 2. So how many laps did they run if they swam 14 laps? What variable does the swimming 14 laps represent? Is swimming the y-axis or the y variable? It's the x. So this is the same thing as saying let x equal 14. And we're going to substitute that into our equation. Y equals 1 times 14 plus 2. Well, what is 1 times 14? Plus 2 is? So they ran 16 laps. They ran 16